explain to me, because all you've mentioned, incredible shows that are in production or that are now hit shows. Brad, first for you, explain Pop's shift, strategic shift, to scripted entertainment and cultural shows. Chris, you started mentioning True TV now as a comedy network. Why? And Courtney, your eclectic mix. You have anywhere from Doctor Who to Graham Norton to nature shows to Top Gear, and now you have Thursday night darts. Where did darts come from? I want to understand the programming on each of your sides.
All right, how do we do this quickly? So we were the TV Guide network, right? Which meant that we were in almost every home imaginable, but it was a utility that nobody needed anymore because you can just hit a button now and get your guide. But when you take that off, you're still a square box that's in over 80 million homes, so what do you do with it? And we already had a very female 25-54 audience. And from seeing some rebrands that have gone on, all the rebrands that I've seen haven't worked very well when they try to alienate the audience they have and try to attract an entire new audience. Like when H2 goes to Vice, very, very difficult transition. When Discovery Health went to Oprah Winfrey, difficult transition. When Style became Esquire, you're basically saying, all of you that are watching Style, go away, I'm going to start from zero. The ones that have worked, when you see like History Channel, they changed kind of the content they were doing on history, but they didn't rebrand themselves. They just tried to make it more. So we were like, okay, we want to continue targeting this audience, and how do you do that in a way that isn't E or Bravo or VH1 or so how do you separate yourselves from that? And we thought if there was a way for us to do scripted content at a reality type of budget, which our small network had, that would be a way to differentiate yourselves. Yes, you were a smaller network. Yes, you didn't have as big budgets. But if you could operate and look and feel like FX or like a TNT, if you could feel big, but do it at a different price point, then that would separate yourselves from E or Bravo or Oxygen or VH1, those channels that kind of were in our little circle. So, and Schitt's Creek really became our, Mad Men. It became our show that defined the network that really then becomes your North Star for other things that you want to do. But that was very, very much by design. We didn't, much like you, we didn't want to be just another Kardashian network, just another rich kids on a boat network. We wanted to see if there was a way of feeling like FX, but with, Bravo. With Pop TV budgets. Could you do that? And that's kind of been our goal. We certainly want to feel and look as premium in it as anyone, but doing it with 10% of the budget. And that's kind of our unique lane.
But I think specifically both of your networks, you could say now after almost 6 years, both of you, what you've done with your networks. They don't feel like FX. It feels like Pop Television. It feels like True TV. It is unique. People are coming there laughing and stuff. It is different.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it takes time for a brand to come into its own. I feel, and you become defined by the shows that are successful. Mm-hmm. The audience chooses, right? Anyone who tells you they can engineer a hit and they know what's going to be a huge hit. It sounds like you did it with Killing Me, but it usually doesn't work that way. You take your swings, you create sort of brand guidelines, what you want to be known for, and you take those swings, and then ultimately the audience chooses what works. But it takes time for people to connect to new content and new talent, and to start to understand what a network stands for. When we first went out and I was pitching to the industry my vision for True TV, everyone just looked at me like I was crazy. True had been the reality arm of Turner, and was really the home of all these derivative towing and pawn shows, like Hardcore Pawn and Lizard Lick Towing, and they were sort of all the same show, which had really strong ratings, but advertisers did not want to be associated with that content necessarily. And so my job was to come in and make it a little more premium and turn it around. And I had learned in my time spent with all the millennials and focus groups at MTV that comedy is currency for millennials. That's what they share most in social media. They really value, younger audiences value comedy in a way even more so than in prior generations. It's sort of just baked into the DNA now. And at that time, it's when all that sort of heavy conflict-oriented reality shows were on the air, and things like Sons of Anarchy and Game of Thrones, lots of heavy drama. We're like, where did all the fun go? We need an escape from that, right? And so that seemed to be the biggest white space. Yes, Comedy Central's there and other channels, but it was the biggest white space. I've since learned comedy's the hardest thing to do, because I think sense of humor is so subjective, right? And there's many different categories of comedy, and so finding enough volume. I was telling you this earlier, when I had to wipe out, I canceled every show except for Impractical Jokers. It was the one show that could live with the new brand. So starting from scratch, we're 100% original. We have no acquisitions. So starting from scratch and building up an entire network of hopefully smart, fresh comedic shows is just really hard. The comedy world is not that big. It's getting bigger, but it's also getting spread across all these platforms now. So it's the most challenging thing, but I think it is the thing people are looking for right now. People are looking for escapism. They're looking for an oasis away from the heaviness of the world and of politics and of news. And you can escape into a really awesome, dramedy, action-adventure thing. Like Killing Eve is everything in such a beautiful, elegant package. But I think people are looking to escape, and comedy is a great escape. I feel like we're serving a purpose at this time.
And